All right. Good evening. Welcome to this special edition of Showtime TV. I'm your host, Omar Rashada. This discussion of topic for this evening is going to be mental health awareness. And I have some distinguished guests joining this evening. We have Jennifer Samalowitz, who is from the Mental Health Association, Delaware. We have Ms. Paula Smith from FASA. And we have Denise Rodriguez, who is the director of the Peer Recovery Center at Horizon House in Delaware. Ladies, good evening, and thank you for being a guest on tonight's program.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so we're going to start with Jennifer. Basically, if you could just introduce yourselves and just let the audience know what is it that you do.
Sure. My name is Jennifer Smolowitz, and I am the Director of Suicide Prevention at the Mental Health Association in Delaware. And we are a statewide nonprofit organization that focuses on education, advocacy, and support for those impacted by mental illness and their family members, friends, community members. So a lot of what we do is suicide prevention trainings, mental health awareness programs, wellness groups, and we have our peer support program as well.
Okay. Mrs. Smith?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for inviting FASA to join you. I am the founder of a nonprofit organization named Friends of Zane Adams. We call it FASA Inc. And like many others, am I giving you feedback?
I think Denise, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's Denise or someone can mute themselves and get some feedback during the programming. So I don't know if someone wants to mute themselves in the meantime. Okay, there it was. It was in the. Okay, there you go, Ms. Smith.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Like many nonprofits, we're well, first of all, we're based in New Carrollton, Maryland, but we operate in the United States, in the contiguous United States. And like so many nonprofits that get started, it started from a family tragedy. We lost our granddaughter to postpartum depression, suicide. And just until 4 days before she left us, I had never heard the term postpartum depression. We had no idea that she was really depressed. She had a 1-month-old son. And of course, we know that changes happen in your life when you have a newborn baby. And we were all here to support her. We have a very large family, and we loved her intensely. And of course, I'll leave information for you to go out and see her memory page. But when we first started our organization, we just started it to help Zane, who was our 1-month-old baby. And we found out there were no answers as far as kind of doing anything but grieving. How do you get him from where he is to where he's going to be in life, which is a grown man? He has a father and he has a family on both sides, but there was so much grieving going on until we just didn't know what to do. So we started the organization because we realized there were other families like ours.
Right, right. All right, Denise. You're on mute. There you go.
Denise Rodriguez. I am the program director for the Horizon House Peer Recovery Drop-In Center. We're relatively new. We've been in existence for approximately 2.5 years. And this has kind of been a dream of mine to be able to run my own program. Basically, we are there for the community members who suffer from homelessness, addiction, and mental health issues, where we operate Monday through Friday, and we're a place where individuals can come off the street. They feel safe while they're there. They're able to take showers. If they need clothing, we have clothing closets for men and women. We also run groups throughout the day, recovery groups, coping skills, such as those groups. If an individual needs to wash clothes, we have a washer and dryer on site, and we provide all the toiletries that they need for showers, all the, the laundry soap they need. But we also, most importantly, try to get people connected with services. If they need mental health service, we do our intakes and we find out that they haven't seen a doctor. We get them connected to a primary care physician. We meet the clients where they're at and try to find out what their needs are so that we can help them. Either it could be make life changes or just make small changes in their life. Like I said, we meet them where they're at. If they're not ready to go full force, then we take baby steps with them.
Okay, and also joining us in conversation is Johnny Gethers. He is a licensed master social worker, therapist. Johnny, welcome to the NICE program. So if you could just introduce yourself and just let the folks out there know what you do.
All right, so good evening, everyone. My name is Johnny Gethers. I am a licensed social worker here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I actually work for 2 organizations where I am a mental health therapist for both of them. One is Family Links Incorporated, and with my position with Family Links, I'll do individual and group therapy in a therapeutic classroom model program. Within the therapeutic classroom model program, what that is an actual program where it's connected with Pittsburgh Public School District, where there are different therapeutic classrooms placed in public schools. So the school that I'm placed under within the therapeutic classroom program is Pittsburgh Carmel. So the kids I work with in that therapeutic classroom are from 1st to 3rd grade. And with those kids in that classroom, I provide individual and group therapy. Also, along with that, work with the teachers, the staff, and the families just to make sure that the kids are getting their needs met so they can be able to transition into a mainstream classroom setting. My second job, which I actually started working with back in August, is Hand in Hand Counseling Services, which is a private practice organization that is ran by Sharice Nance and Tess Kinney, where I provide individual sessions for children through adults. And with that position, I actually worked with that position through my license.
Okay. All right. I just want to let the audience know that Michael Kalmbach from the Creative Vision Factory, who's the director of the Creative Vision Factory, was scheduled to be a guest, but the last minute change of the schedule wouldn't allow him to do so. Johnny, I want to stay with you. So you can define what is mental health, and then maybe some of the most common diagnoses. I know schizophrenia is one, bipolar, depression, if you can just name a few others.
Okay, so my definition of mental health is mainly our overall well-being. It's how we deal with things physically, it's how we deal with things psychologically, it's how we deal with things when it comes to socialization, and it's how we deal with things spirituality. All those things tied together when it comes to mental health. And we already know that there's a stigma out there saying that, okay, if we talk about mental health, that means something is wrong with us. Something's wrong with us. That means that we're crazy and things like that. But that's not really the case. Mental health is basically our overall well-being and how we're able to function through life in general. And the main common diagnoses when it comes to within mental health, especially with children, you have adjustment disorder, which is a typical diagnosis that children will get when they're going through different phases of life and don't really know how to handle things in life. So adjustment disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which is known as ADHD. You have oppositional defiant disorder. You have chronic disorder. You have the most common, which is, depression, major depressive, and things like that. But most of those diagnoses that are common is something that we normally see on a daily basis. But with us having that particular diagnosis in hand, we're able to decide and figure out what needs to be done for the individuals that we're serving.
All right. And before we go to the next question, like I said, if anyone of you want to chime in after I leave the question with someone else, feel free to do so. So if anyone wants to chime in, they can at a particular time. If not, I'll go on to the next question. Okay, Mrs. Smith, I want to go back to you, your granddaughter. Before she had passed away the way she did, what type of person was she? Okay, everybody, you can unmute yourselves. You know, this is much easier. We'll go with the flow with that. Okay, so everyone can unmute
Right.
themselves.
Well, being her grandmom, of course, I'm going to say that she was an angel. But the fact is that she was a very beautiful human being. And that's why I encourage everyone to not only go to FASA Inc., but there's another very wonderful site that helps with maternal suicide, and that's called Mom 2020. And they have a full-blown site that really shows the depth of how many young mothers, and not even young mothers, just mothers who are postpartum or who are just experiencing just the lifestyle with a small child. This could be a foster parent, it can be a step parent, but as far as Christina was concerned, she was like the insect that she loved so much, a butterfly. And she was just lighthearted. Maybe she weighed 110 pounds, maybe that much. So she was tiny. She loved to model. She loved to dance. She loved to smile. And she had those times when she was in solitude, but we really felt as if we had the answer. We had no idea. As Johnny said, he talked about some of the mental conditions that can happen with people, not only mentally, but spiritually, physically. But when you're postpartum, everything sort of gets magnified a little bit.
Okay.
It gets out of whack. Some women have never experienced needing to ask for help. And so because there's a stigma attached, and there is, and one of our slogans is to stop the stigma, stop the silence, stop the suicides, and just stop the suffering that a lot of people feel. It affects their lifestyle, even if it doesn't take them to postpartum psychosis. So you have that stage with a postpartum mom where she is, she might have what's been known for centuries as the baby blues. And it's just a little let down after a baby comes that can slip into depression, that can then slip into psychosis. So she was a wonderful person, and just her baby was only a month old. So that's how long it took for us to lose her.
Right. You know, the word postpartum, it was new to me. So here I'm the man. I'm looking from the outside.
Men have it
So,
too.
and so as a woman, right, I always believe that having a child is the most precious thing in the world for a woman. So after she has a child, I think she's full of glory and happiness and togetherness. So I was trying to figure out, you know, as I was preparing for the show, like, what is it that makes her so depressed that she would want to take her life after she gives birth? I mean, is it the fact that she's a single mother? Is it the fact that maybe she doesn't have a father with her? I'm just brainstorming as to what would make a woman be so depressed that she would take her life after the death of having a child. I want to get on in with that. Anyway.
Omar, for someone that has suffered from from the same thing, I found that when, as a young mother, I found that I was having symptoms during my pregnancy that I didn't even realize. And, you know, your body's going through a lot of changes. You know, the chemicals in your body are changing on a day-to-day basis. And once I had my child, I thought that was going to go away. But then I had new concerns and new and different anxieties. I didn't feel that I was a good enough mother. I was a single mom when I had my first son, and I felt that, that I just wasn't equipped to be a mom, even though everybody around me thought I was doing an excellent job. I had a lot of doubts within myself. So I think that for everybody, everybody has their own story, but I think a lot of people don't realize that you may have some of these symptoms before your pregnancy, and then afterwards, I think it just gets worse. And if you're not familiar with it, which I wasn't with my first child, who was 31 years old, I didn't know to get help because I was so ashamed, because I felt like I should know these things, like I should have all the answers. And I think people are afraid to reach out. So that may be, part of the situation.
I wanted to add too, I think that it's not just moms who are going at it alone, but Ms. Smith, thank you so much, both of you actually, for sharing your stories. I believe you shared that both sides of the families were involved and the baby's father was involved. So even somebody who feels very well loved and supported and connected can still experience some of these struggles. So it's important that we're looking out for everybody, not just based on their circumstances, and that it can really impact everyone. But there is such a stigma around moms are supposed to be able to do everything and multitask and have 12 hands all of a sudden. And it's a lot to take on. And there's not always that, especially now with a lot of the pressures you see online, you want to be super mom, but we know that that's not always within everybody's realm.
Absolutely. I just wanted to say that I appreciate you sharing your story. I definitely talk to a lot of women now. Over the time since we've got started, what FASA does is we try to put resources together. We're not therapists, we're not clinicians, we're not doctors. We want to communicate with the therapists, the clinicians, the doctors, the holistic practitioners. Because of COVID, we call it connect the dots. Many services that were available for either walk-in or sit down or whatever, they kind of got disconnected. And a lot of the services that are online, our ladies don't necessarily know where they are. I'm in a group of 18,000 postpartum moms, and women come into the group every 15 or 20 minutes. Of course, thank God you don't stay postpartum. You are, as Ms. Rodriguez said, you can have symptoms all your life, maybe. You can have suicidal ideation many times, but there's only a short period from what I've learned that you actually go through and take that action. And so what we try to do is make sure that we, first of all, tell all moms in close communication with your primary medical doctors and your primary medical team. But many times they come to us and say they're not taken seriously, or they're not believed, or they don't feel as if they're being taken seriously, or they don't feel as if they're being believed. And so our program tries to get family members, people who are around, and everyone's different. So there's no specific sign, or there are certain signs, but you don't always know, because we certainly didn't know. We were clueless. But to do what you're doing, Jennifer, in providing training. So we have training, experts in our circle and so forth and so on.
Right. Yeah, I want to go back to Jennifer and Johnny. If you want to chime in, feel free to do so, please. Jennifer, I know your trainings. I know you mentioned. I'm assuming that you mentioned like warning signs. Like, just give us some examples for educational purposes and informational purposes of warning signs of someone who may have suicidal thoughts.
Well, yeah, I can definitely dive into that. I did just want to add real quick about postpartum depression while we were still talking about it.
Okay, sure.
That making sure you're checking up on the new moms too, because babies have 1 week checkups and 1 month checkups and so on and so forth. And that's not necessarily in place for a new mom. So more programs like FASA and all things like that are great, because it allows people to say, I have a place where I can finally feel heard. But in regards to the warning signs, they can definitely vary. But one of the biggest ones is an overwhelming life change, right? Or an overwhelming loss. So it might not be the loss of an individual, but it could be the loss of an experience, the loss of a loved one, the loss of freedom, the loss of finances, identity. We see it a lot with athletes when they either hit their prime or they get hurt and they can no longer play. There's a big disconnect there. Leaving the military can be another one. So any major type of loss, if somebody's showing signs of feeling hopeless, helpless, feeling like they're drowning, overwhelmed, worried, those are definitely some of those keywords we want to look out for. And really, if there's not anything that they have looking forward to in the future, even if it's they're looking forward to going to the concert on Friday night, we know that they're going to be safe until then based on our conversations with them, but we want to make sure we're finding something after that concert to keep them safe for. So we always want to make sure that they have something that they're looking forward to, something that they want to stay alive for and keep fighting for.
Right.
Yeah, also some warning signs when it comes to suicide as well too. It's basically moods, changes in moods. Like one moment you could be happy and the next moment like you're down and out. And then even when you're down and out, it might just trigger on either for like a few days or even longer, like weeks or months. So noticing those mood changes, even behaviors, like one moment you're having like a good day, and then turn around, you're just all over the place. You're not really know how to function. You don't really know how to handle things. Another thing that stands out when it comes to suicide as well is individuals like writing letters and giving letters to family, friends, close people, and then also giving things away. So giving like personal things that they love and cherish the most, and they just giving it away to say, here, I'm giving this to you. That could be a warning sign as well, because within that moment when they're giving things precious to them away and giving letters, that is just a way to say that, okay, they just giving things up because they are ready to be done with everything. So that's something that we got to pay attention to.
I think there's a misconception, and I've heard people talk about, well, if somebody says that they're going to kill themselves, they're really not. It's just attention-seeking behaviors. And I've heard individuals say, well, so-and-so just took a couple pills, but they didn't die because they were trying to get attention. And people need to realize that when someone is attempting suicide, they are afraid. And each attempt that they attempt a suicide, they get less afraid or they get more brave. And the attempt, if like I've had clients that I've noticed that their attempts seem to be more aggressive, so to speak. And I had an experience with a personal friend of mine that talked about it. Just when she was angry, oh, I just feel like killing myself. And people used to say, oh, don't pay her any mind. And I lost contact with her over the years, but come to find out that she committed suicide by taking a gun and killing herself. So it's not the fact that it's not true that people just say they're going to kill themselves and they're not. We have to be very attentive to what people are saying. We have to take things seriously. I know, for someone that suffers depression, I don't always voice what I feel, but you can tell in my actions, and you can tell in, my day-to-day living, like, you have to pay attention, and that's the important thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember too, we never know, even when it comes to something, we may see somebody having an overdose or something, and we think that it's accidental and rushing in to save them, whether it's with naloxone or something else, but remembering that that person might not be happy about still being alive, right? They might have intentionally wanted to end their life. So we have to be mindful of that and how we go into those situations, knowing that that person may have some anger and they may feel like, well, I didn't do this right, or things like that. So we just want to be mindful, but knowing too that it's not just somebody who's alone. People who are well loved and supported die by suicide too. So we have to look out for everybody. And it's not just, oh, this person doesn't have a support system, because sometimes people have the biggest support system and they still choose to die by suicide.
And that's absolutely correct, Jennifer. And everyone is different. Just like Rodriguez said, when you're feeling isolated, but you're not talking about it, then everyone around you needs to kind of like step up a little bit. We specialize in just postpartum depression, of course, because that's what we built our foundation on. But there's a little bit of an edge there, because we know when a woman is pregnant. We know when she's postpartum. And we don't know all the answers of how she's going to react, or how some women, and as you said, Omar, I mean, it is the absolute peak of their life. Or I guess they wouldn't have 7 or 8 children. But sometimes postpartum depression can come in on the 3rd child or the 4th child. And so just knowing that mother, and the ones that don't have support, working in the community, we know this as well. We know when a young mother doesn't necessarily have all the support she needs. Everyone in the community doesn't know, but wherever she's getting her food, wherever she's getting her sustenance, however she's surviving, someone's around her and they know that she might not have all the support she needs. So that's one thing we think is a saving grace for us, because we know that woman is pregnant and we know that she is going to have a child. And if that child doesn't survive, we know she's in danger. If that child does survive, we know that even though she's smiling, she's not getting any sleep. She's probably not eating the way she should be eating. She's probably not expressing her feelings. And when she is, someone is probably saying, oh, you're pretending, it's not that bad. This would be the happiest time of your life. And so, yes, everyone around everyone, this is a love one another as I have loved you kind of thing.
And it's very dangerous when people have this misconception, oh, once you have the baby, you're going to be so happy to hold your baby, it's going to go away. And it doesn't just go away. And if it was that easy, then we wouldn't need organizations such as your great organization. It's not easy. People are dealing with it all the time. And the fact that people are not educated about it is, it's disheartening, but I'm glad for your organization, because when I was having, children, I didn't know about it. And sadly to say, the primary physician that I had really didn't know about it, because that was what I was told, you'll be okay. But thankfully, I was being taken care of also by midwives. So they actually caught it ahead of time and were able to address the issue. But it could have went a whole different way. And, so I am very grateful for your program.
And I'm grateful for all of your programs as well, because my program cannot survive without experts. As you just mentioned, it wasn't just your time of when you were having children. I have mothers tell me every day their medical doctor doesn't understand. Or she'll tell me she doesn't want to take some kind of pharmaceutical because she's breastfeeding, even though that might make her feel better. And she doesn't trust it, so to speak. And so we do have a podcast once a month, which we will try to make more, because the information is so powerful and there's so much out there. But we invite holistic practitioners. We invited a hypnotist. We invited a breathologist. We tell our mothers, stick with your medical doctor. And if they're not giving you what you need, not saying what you think you want to hear, or not making you feel, you walk out of the office feeling no better than you did when you walked in, don't be afraid or ashamed to ask for another doctor or more help, because your life is your life. But there are so many ways a woman can self-care, and her family can help her self-care if they are working maybe with a group like Jennifer's that has training. And like I said, on our website, we have an excellent group, an Air Force, retired Air Force captain who lost her brother to suicide and started a program just for military people. Because as you said, Jennifer, many times military people, somehow, we're a military family, we're Air Force. My husband was a career retired Air Force. We have everything. We have all the medicine, we have all the resources, especially Air Force. We have everything. But when you're moved away from your home or your country, or the only family you've ever really been close to, and you find yourself in an isolated position or in a community where you don't know anyone, that mom is just as vulnerable as a mom who was set down in an island.
Okay, I want to ask Johnny, Ms. Smith mentioned seek help. There are those who may be going through some mental health symptoms, and may not know they even have them. So give us examples of some mental health symptoms that may cause one to seek some individual counseling with what you do. And then also, I want you to talk about the different styles of counseling techniques that you use, such as if you use CBT, motivational enhancement therapy. Floor is yours.
Okay, all right. So some symptoms that individuals should use to just say that they need to seek help. One that stands out the most is just needing support. What I noticed, especially with the kids and the adults that I work with in both organizations, that those individuals need a listening ear. They need an open ear, open voice. Because there are moments that nowadays individuals don't really know how to verbalize their emotions. They don't really know how to express their thoughts and things like that. And sometimes they get that stigma of saying that, okay, if I share my information to someone, or if I share my thoughts about what I'm going through, I might get teased, I might get joked at, I might be, be less than someone, and that kind of causes them to hold their emotions in, And we already know once we hold our emotions in, we're quick to explode, either at the wrong person, at the wrong place, and at the wrong time. So that is a warning sign or a symptom that can happen for individuals just want to be able to open up and say what's going on. Trauma is another symptom. When it comes to trauma is broad. We go through different kinds of trauma. A kid can go through trauma based on witnessing their parents arguing. Us as adults, we can go through trauma because we're witnessing to this day. We're going through a pandemic. That's trauma right there. Teenagers, they might be going through trauma based on being able to fit in, trying to identify themselves, trying to see what their strengths and what their weaknesses are before becoming adults. Things like that. Those trauma effects are symptoms. Another aspect of a symptom that individuals might need and seeking help to is figuring out what coping skills they can get through, and how to, handle certain things. Because most of the times, when it comes to coping skills, some people cope through either violence, some people cope through just staying to themselves. Some individuals might cope through even using drugs and alcohol as trying to get through things. So most times people seek therapy just to find different coping mechanisms that could be more positive and more helpful to get through, life. Now with me, when it comes to treatment modalities, what I normally do within first, I would give you a breakdown. So what I do with the kids at the school, more so, I'll do art therapy, I do play therapy, I do mindfulness, I teach like social skills, we do role playing. Even there are moments where I just have a time for them just to be able to do just a simple express yourself moment where they could be able to open up and share what they're feeling, share what their thoughts are, share what coping exercises that they can use to help them to get through certain things. Little psychoeducation here and there where I can educate them on certain things that they can apply to themselves. With adults, what I'll do is the same thing I'm doing with the kids, I'll do the same thing with adults, but more so with the adults, they're able to understand it and process it more. With the kids, when it comes to those modalities, I actually will make it to a point where I put myself in their shoes so I could be able to understand them better and understand what they're going through, and saying that, okay, I see what you're going through because I know when I was your age, I kind of dealt with this before. Or I know when I was your age that I saw or experienced this before. So I could give you a certain, tips and tools on how, to handle it. And it's up to them to be able to decide on if they want to take that, do the work or not. Same thing with the adults. If I'm able to exceed a specific experience that I actually face or something that's brand new to me that I never, thought of before, we can have a dialogue conversation so we can get into a happy medium to decide on what they think they can do to get through this. And also knowing that with all clients, regardless if I'm working with the kids, regardless if I'm working with the adults, and I learned this when I was in school, that I'm just a guide. I'm not the person that knows it all. I'm not the person that will say that, okay, this is right, this is wrong. I'm just the guide. The main people that are the expert is the clients that are coming to me for help. They already know what they want. They already know what they, what they need and things like that. But they just need us as a guide, as a support to push them to what they need to get in life.
Right. In addition to individual therapy, I know Denise at the Peer Recovery Center, you have group therapy. So if you could talk
Yes.
about that as well. But before you talk about that, also Jennifer, I think the Mental Health Association refers people for group therapy. So you can mention that as well. Denise, I think we still get some background noise from you. So when you're not speaking, if you can mute yourself when you're not speaking. Okay, but go ahead and talk about the Peer Recovery Center.
So basically at the Peer Recovery Center, we run groups on a daily basis. We do coping skills, recovery groups, whether it's substance abuse or mental health recovery. A lot of the groups we allow people to be able to talk about what it is that they're going through. And we're teaching our clients how to give positive feedback so that they can learn from each other. I know Johnny was talking a lot about the trauma, and we do a lot of trauma groups. And I also started a support group for trauma called I'm a Survivor, Not a Victim. And that was inspired because I found out in talking to my niece, actually, that we both suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. So we came up with the idea to start this trauma group at the Journey Church. So that people have a format where they can talk about what it is that has them feeling traumatized, and then learn from each other coping skills on how to handle their trauma. And one of my favorites is relaxation therapy. I teach the clients, because I know when I started relaxation therapy with my ADHD, I could only sit for 2 or 3 minutes at a time, and then I was done. So it took practice and repetitive and redundant, just do it over and over again, to the point where I can do it whenever I'm feeling anxious and I have a lot of anxiety. I am able to kind of go through it with relaxation therapy. We also utilize a lot of art therapy. If you walk through my center, Omar, I know you visit the center all the time. If you walk in the back, you'll see artwork all over the place. We have volunteers that come in and teach art classes. I teach art classes, and no, I'm not an artist. I just know how to go on YouTube and look up some easy, activities to do with my clients, and they absolutely love it. We display it all over the place, and people ask me, "Oh my God, who did that?" I'm like, "It was me." But yeah, I got it from YouTube, and it's real simple. So it's really important that people are able to identify with one another, and the great thing about my peer center is that it's peer run. So everybody that works there has life experience, has experience with whether it's being incarcerated, substance abuse, mental health issues, so that when the clients are talking about it, we can say, I don't know exactly how you feel, but I've kind of been in your shoes at some point in time in our lives, so people can feel comfortable talking to us about their issues.
Okay, Jennifer?
Sure. So we actually don't do any direct treatment at our organization, but we do have wellness groups. So we have groups for those who have depression, groups for those who have anxiety. We have grief and healing groups for those who lost a loved one to suicide, whether it was a friend, family member, colleague, anybody in your life. All those groups are for adults. We actually are starting a group for those with disabilities, and we just started a Black, Indigenous, people of color wellness group as well. So a lot of times, based on what we're seeing in the community, that kind of helps shape the new wellness groups that we have. But in addition to our wellness groups, and we don't have a therapist who leads them, they are all peer-led. So they're all led by somebody who has a shared reason for being in that group. Part of the treatment, I guess, that we can offer is the educational side of things. Doing what we can to destigmatize mental health, because we know a lot of times people don't come forward for treatment because it is such a stigmatized thing. I don't want to go and say that I have depression because people are going to think I'm like this or I'm like that. We know when something bad happens, the first thing you hear in the news is, oh, that person had depression, or that person had a criminal record, or things of that nature. And we know that's not always the reason why that person chose to do things, but that's also why people often don't get help. And even going back to our conversation earlier about postpartum depression, it's very, very rarely that it's wanting to cause harm to your child. But so many times that's the movies that are made about it and things like that. So the more we can educate people on what mental health and mental illness really are, that's kind of the treatment that we're able to provide.
Okay. And Ms. Smith and Johnny, I don't want to leave you two out. I'm not sure with your respective organizations or business, if you do any type of group gatherings, group therapy.
Yeah, on FASA's side, like I said, we work with other people's groups.
Okay.
So we build our own groups but our group doesn't start until a woman has told us, or a dad has, come in, and usually, and everything we do is virtual. So until a mom or a dad comes in and they express, they don't know what's going on, but something is not normal, something is not right. So usually we're having communications with people who are feeling isolated or overwhelmed or anxious, or maybe feeling like they are not bonding with their child the way they always heard about it in the fairy tales. And a word that Johnny mentioned, trauma. It's wonderful what you do for children, because children who lose a parent to suicide, they're, according to National Institutes of Health, they have a higher rate of having mental issues themselves. Well, you lost your mother or your father, but you lost your mother when you were just a tiny baby, or when your brothers and sisters were really small and she took her life. And they're asking themselves the same kind of question you asked in the beginning of the broadcast, Omar. Why would she do that? What's wrong with me? How can, especially since I was such a cute kid. So what we do is we started FASA, like I said, for Zane. It was a single-minded idea, just to raise Zane from 1 month old to adulthood. And I knew that I might not be here when he got to be an adult. So I started what was called, started a little YouTube channel called My Mommy is a Cumulonimbus. And if you don't know anything about clouds, that's the big one, even though she was very tiny. And the clouds, the star is Augie. Zane's middle name is Augustine. So the star is Augie, and he talked about his mom and how much she was loved. I wanted him to hear my voice, and I wanted him to know how much she was loved. And that kind of started that. Some of them have thousands of views, and that kind of started that conversation with moms. First of all, people showing their condolences, but then sharing, oh, my daughter, my whatever. And so that's why I joined the groups. And now I see a pattern for the women who come in. They want someone to talk to. They're not, some of them might sound suicidal and they might be having ideation, but basically they are lonely. They feel like their husband doesn't understand them, their mother doesn't understand them, their sister, and they feel as if they are being a bother. They feel, as Ms. Rodriguez said, they are not being a good mommy because they don't have this overflowing love for their baby. And they also are just plain tired. They're just not getting any sleep, and they're not getting the life that they want to call, what they want to call normal. So when we get that conversation coming to us, we have what's called a FASA finder on our site. And with that, we don't get personal. We only go by zip code, because that mom can tell us if the stress she feels is coming from she's not getting the medical help she needs, or she's not getting the mental support she needs, or she feels like she's getting ready to lose her home, or she hasn't been able to feed her children. One mother came in and to our chat, and she had to go back into the hospital with an infant, and she was afraid of what was going to happen to her two other small children. She didn't want them to go into some kind of system. And we actually sent her information. We send information to the zip code she gives us within 10 miles or 6 kilometers of where she tells us she is. So we don't ask for any personal information. So if a person came in and the zip code was near you, Johnny, and your information is online, well, of course we have it now, but if I'd never met you and your organization's information, look at that smile, was online, then she would be getting information about your organization. If she came into your she sent us your zip code, Jennifer, she told us something that she needed that you have said your organization provides, then we would be sending her that information, and we can send her up to 60 resources within 10 miles of her location. So that's basically, and of course, actually bringing people into our organization, everyone that comes in as we call them FASA fans, then they must agree, these are the experts, the clinicians, the doctors, the counselors, they have to agree that they're going to give at least 1 hour of consultation to a FASA client to find out if there's an alignment there. And you would say, well, you can Google that. But when a mom is feeling isolated, depressed, out of sorts, they don't want to Google anything. They just want someone to say, you're not alone, and here are some resources. And then we try to see what's around them as far as mom, dad, sister, brother, for someone to help them use those resources.
Okay, Johnny, do you do group therapy?
Well, I only do group therapy with the kids in the therapeutic classroom, but I know within different departments of Family Links, they do offer group sessions, but it's for individuals that are in Allegheny County, which is in Pittsburgh area. Now, with my second job, hand-to-hand counseling, they do group sessions, but it's more so for individuals in Allegheny County too. But with those group sessions at hand-to-hand counseling, it's virtual. But with those group sessions, it's broken down based on different topics. So like I know recently my clinical supervisor, she just is about to close out a group sessions that was focused on social skills. So she's closing out on that one, and then she's supposed to start another one early next year and I think it relates to trauma, I believe, or so. But she does the group sessions based on different topics, and then anyone that's interested in being involved in those particular topics, they're able to join and sign up for them.
Right. Denise, you mentioned being a peer specialist. Just speak for a little in a moment. Just speak for a little on your experience of being a peer specialist. Has it been rewarding for you? Has it been overwhelming for you? Is it something, is your best job in the whole wide world? I just want to touch on being a peer specialist. But before you go, I want to go for Jennifer. Jennifer, does the Mental Health Association Delaware have training in terms of being a peer specialist? I'm not sure if I saw that or not.
Trainings about, what was the last part?
Training for being a peer specialist. I know Mental Health Association, you kind of have some, you work with peer specialists, if I'm staying corrected.
We do. So the peer support team is run through our organization. So we do have a whole team of individuals who work with getting people through their wellness recovery action plan certification, their peer certification. We have a peer 101 for somebody first getting interested in learning more about what the peer role is. So it would all kind of funnel through MHA.
Okay. All right, Denise.
So being a peer specialist has been a very, very unique experience for me. I've worked in the field for over 20 years in different capacities. I worked in the prison system, running like therapeutic communities here in Delaware, also in Chester State Prison. And we used to run groups there for the offenders. And I used to always start by saying, oh, I knew this girl that went through this, or she suffered depression, or she was traumatized, because I was too embarrassed to share my own story. And when I became a peer specialist, I learned that by sharing your story, you're promoting your own healing. And well, the first time wasn't easy. The second time wasn't easy. But as time went on, now I share my story, and I'm proud to be able to share my story, because I know my short story, not only does it promote my healing, it helps other people. And I've been a peer specialist going on 6 years. I love what I do. I honestly say that this is the first time that I really can go to work and say that I get paid to do what I love to do.
Awesome. Awesome. Johnny, you and I are both part of a group called Black Male Therapists. And as I was preparing for the show, I just want to ask you, being an African-American therapist, do you find that more African-American men are seeking therapy? Are they coming to you? Or what I'm asking is, I would figure sometimes culture is a big issue in this field. You know what I'm saying? If you have an African-American male who has issues, he may feel more comfortable with coming to someone who looks just like him? Because he figured, Johnny's African-American, he may grow up in the inner city. So are you finding that more and more Black males are seeking therapy, as well as, I guess you said earlier that you meet with teenagers as well and children?
Yeah, so I feel as though it is increasing more, and it's due to the fact of, like you said, African American men are seeing Black male therapists doing the work and such. And we already know in the past that we know that social work and therapy is a female, oriented, profession. But seeing us as Black men being in that profession, it kind of gives men and Black boys hope to say, okay, I see someone that's like me, I could talk to them and be able to share my feelings and things like that, and not be judged, not be criticized, and have an open and support. I could say right now with the kids that I work with right now, all of them are African American, and I'm able to, talk with them, able to talk to them about different things, teach them things, but then also they know that they could come to me for anything. They know they could talk to me about anything. If they need help, they know they can reach out to me for help. Same thing with my other job. With my second job, my clients are more diverse, but then I do have some African American teenagers and kids that have actually seek therapy, not just through their parents. They actually seek therapy within themselves and say, okay, I want to go, get therapy. And when finding out that they had wanted to meet with me, because before they got through their intake and everything like that, they actually have a process to even check what therapists are available. So they could go on the website, on Hand in Hand Counselor's website, and look at the team and who's all the therapists there. And I'm the only Black male therapist that's in the actual organization right now at the moment. So when they see that, that's saying that, okay, there's a male there. There's a Black male there. I could be able to go to him and talk to him about different things. And even when I do like the intakes and everything, before moving forward, I always ask them, I said, well, how do you feel about your experience? Are you okay with this? And if they say they're fine, then I move on to the next question. Are you okay with me being a therapist moving forward? And then once they say, yeah, and I said, well, give me your reasoning. And then they said their reasoning will be, most of the time, the reasoning would be because you're just like me. Or also another reason would be like, I can relate to you because you made me so comfortable to be able to get through the intake and to get through the whole process of trying to start therapy. Now I want to continue this journey with you. And that's just a blessing in itself.
Working in this field, one of the things that I find so significantly important is developing or having a support system. There are clients that I've worked with in the past and the current who don't have family, who may not have friends. I mean, they have family, but they burned the bridges with the family. Family don't want nothing to do with he or she anymore. And it's just a way of life. So Denise, I know with the Peer Recovery Center, I know some of the clients that go in there, they don't have relationship with their counselor, with their families. And the peers at the Peer Recovery Center are their family. So I want to open up this question with you, Ms. Smith, Jennifer, and Johnny, if you want to chime in. Talk about the significance of building that support system with the clientele that you work with, and having peers as being their brothers, as being their sisters. And sometimes they even say, well, Horizon House is my only family. I mean, I did an intake on clients. I said, who's your emergency contact? It's Horizon House. So, so if anyone want to speak on that, I want to start with Denise.
Yeah. So I've heard in the past, I've heard other staff members say, well, I heard that client just call you mom. Isn't that unprofessional? I don't know if it's professional or unprofessional, but I'll be honest, we are sometimes all they have. When they come in the morning and they see us, and we are making sure that they're fed and making sure that they have clothes to wear and making sure that they're clean, and, asking them what they want to watch on TV and sitting down with them to help them fill out an application, and they're, we are their support system. They feel a connection with us. It helps to develop and build a trust so that when they are going through things, they will sit down and talk with us. So I feel comfortable with having that type of rapport with my clients. And they definitely know that I am the mother figure at the drop-in center. And although I am very, so to speak, affectionate, professionally speaking, I also am, one to enforce rules. And I am very fair when it comes to enforcing rules. But like I explained to them, we cannot have this type of environment and not have rules. Just like if you were at home and your mom told you that it's time to go to bed, that you have to go to bed. So with the clients, it's a lot of redirecting behaviors, and reminding them that, hey, like this is the culture that you may have outside, but in here, the culture has to be different. And the reason for that is for different reasons. Number one, we can't run chaos inside the center. But number two is to teach them when they go to other places outside the center, this is how they're supposed to conduct themselves, because it's important for them to, a lot of them either knew these behaviors, or they forgot those behaviors, or they just never learned. They didn't have that type of education at the home, like how to conduct themselves, like just simple things. Like if I come in and someone has their legs all over the table that we eat on, it's like, hey, you can't put your legs on the table. No, ask me why. And I'll explain to them why, and then sometimes like I'll get a staff member say like, why do you have to explain everything? Because they don't always know. And this is what we're there for. We're there to be, a parent figure to a lot of these people that come in there. And I enjoy that relationship and rapport that I have with my clients.
It's great. It's excellent. I appreciate you build such a great story. I appreciate just listening to you. I could see you working, see you enjoying yourself, and see you smiling. We are virtual, and so you might think, well, what kind of relationship could we build with our clients? Well, first of all, we are a business since 1996. We have ran a marketing agency, Don Paul Enterprises. So our motto is long-term relationships, not short-term sales. So we know how to build relationships. But when it came to the nonprofit, we wanted to do something similar. So one thing we do to build a relationship with our families, other than just following up with that mom once she gets in contact with us, like I say, we don't ask for any personal information, and we don't actually tuck anyone in the evening, but we do follow up with her and try to make sure she is in touch with people who are communicating with her through her postpartum period and beyond. Also, FASA itself will come out to the home. So if you have a child in your circle who has lost their parent due to depression-related illness, we will send to FASA for free. And FASA is FASA is a big guy. He's not a little teeny tiny guy. He's big. He's soft and he's comforting. And we do that simply to stay in touch, because this child is going to grow. So we want to be sure when we start giving out scholarships that we still have that child in our system, and we can find out if there's any educational need that we can help. We also help that mom. Once we give a resource, say we send one of our clients to, I'm assuming that you're all nonprofits, but I don't know. And say she doesn't have the insurance or the intake fee or whatever might be needed, then she can get back in contact with us, and we will try to see, FASA will try to see if it can pay that intake fee. For example, my hypnotherapist, he has a group. He's expensive, but he has a group that's not expensive. And if that mom feels that session that Denise talked about, wherein it brought her that calmness, that relaxation, that's a part of hypnotherapy. But if she can't afford that, then she can come back to us, and we'll see if we can get her through the intake process.
Awesome. That's so awesome. We spoke earlier about suicide. Jennifer, I guess more and more, you're seeing children commit suicide. So some it may be as a result of being bullied on social media. Well, if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of things. I think it's societal pressures overall. I think from kindergarten and first grade now, kids are being brought up to get your resume ready, right? You always have to outbest the next person and things like that. So it's a lot of pressure from an early age. The bullying aspect for sure. It used to be if you were bullied at school, home could be a safe place for you. That's not the case anymore. Recently, we've had a lot of youth who were home and were in households where there may have been neglect or child abuse, or witnessing domestic violence, not being seen by the teachers because students were home for such long periods of time. So that could play a factor into it. But it's just a lot. I think that the empathy levels have gone down. So now if you see somebody in trouble, the first thing everybody does is take out their phone to record it rather than stepping in to help. And I think that plays a lot into it. And I think that differences in family structures are part of it. Parents and guardians having to work multiple jobs, so they're not necessarily home to know the ins and outs of what's going on every day. It's just very different, and it's difficult for them. And the more we can bring up these resiliency skills from the get-go, the better. But I think the only way to really do that is from a very early age. Say it's okay to not be okay, but let's talk about it. If you're sad, that's fine, but let's talk about it. If you're overwhelmed or frustrated, let's use our words and talk about it. I think if we can have these conversations from the start of school, then even before then, I think it can really help change things.
Are men and women committing suicide in similar fashions? For example, gunshot, OD on medications. Is there a difference?
No, we actually see males using more lethal means such as firearms. So their completion rate is higher when it comes to suicide, but we see a higher attempt rate among females. And that's been pretty steady over the past few years. Obviously, different data may show different trends in the future, but as of lately, that's been the trend.
Right. You know, around this time of the year, it can be very tough for many people. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, the holidays, because mom is no longer here. She was the one who brought the family together. Grandma was the one who did special prayers. Denise, at Peer Recovery Center, for those who may not have families or have that support system, I know every year you've been doing an annual Thanksgiving dinner. I'm not sure about Christmas. And then if anyone else organization, do you do things for people during the holidays and help them cope? So let's go with Denise.
Well, yes. Well, if you know anything about our center, we always find an excuse to have a party. We are constantly doing stuff for the clients, but we involve the clients in the process so that they can feel that they're a part of something. We feel that's very important. Like I said, for the family environment, we have Thanksgiving dinners, Christmas dinners, and we always look for organizations because we are a nonprofit organization, and we get a lot of help from community members, especially around Christmas time. People will drop off small gifts so that we can make sure that each client leaves with a gift that day, because that might be the only gift that they see for that holiday. And we just think it's like really important for them to feel when they're coming to that center that they may not have a home to go to in retrospect, but they can come to the center and feel that they're at home. And that's a big thing for us. And we always want to encourage them to participate. And a lot of them may not have had that growing up. You know, we just assume that, you know, that's something that they've always been a part of. A lot of them may not have had that growing up. So we're teaching them, you know, maybe a new custom or something different in their culture. So that's something that we like to definitely promote in our program, is to make sure that we celebrate. And if anybody comes to my center, people laugh at me because I have an all-year tree. Right now, my tree is a Halloween tree. The topper is a big giant spider, and next week it's just going to be a fall tree. And like I said, the clients get to participate in doing those decorations, so it makes them feel good.
Okay. All right. So everyone, so I'm going to have everyone do some closing comments. And in your closing comments, you inform the audience about your organization, phone number, website, any upcoming programs. Jennifer, I know the Mental Health Association of Delaware has upcoming programs, so I'm going to start with you.
Sure, thank you. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we are a statewide nonprofit organization that focuses on, our mission is for education, advocacy, and support for all of those impacted by mental health in Delaware. So not just the individuals, but their family members, caregivers, the general community members. As far as advocacy, it's more on a legislative side, but we do have people call. We have an INR line, an information and referral line. So we will have people call with questions or, hey, I'm concerned about my family member. Who can I talk to? And we'll try to connect them with organizations or different types of therapy programs or things that we're familiar with, that we will try to make the connection there. The education we do is for mental health and suicide awareness. Our upcoming events, we have a higher education suicide prevention conference coming up in Dover, Delaware on November 16th. And then our Empowering Community Wellness Symposium will be on Thursday, November 18th. Both are half-day conferences, so both in the mornings. And the symposium will be at the riverfront in Wilmington. And that's going to be talking about some of the impacts from COVID and some trauma.
Okay, and what's your website and phone number?
Yeah, so our website is mhainde.org, and our phone number is 302-654-6833.
All right, okay, Johnny, closing comments.
All right, so a closing comment for anyone that's out there watching this and actually listening to this too as well is that you're not alone. There are moments where we all go through certain things in different times, different ways, in different forms, but you just got to be aware that you're not alone. And whenever you feel like something is not at the best of your standard, to not be afraid to ask for help, not be afraid to open up your mouth and say what's going on, say what's on your mind. Also within myself, with Family Links, if you want information about Family Links, you can go on Family Links website at familylinks.org. For hand-to-hand counseling, you could go to hihcounseling.com. And then with me personally, which actually started last year during the rise of the pandemic, was I started doing my own video segments on social media and on YouTube, and I call them JG Mental Health Fridays. So with those videos, I talk about different topics that we all go through on a daily basis, and provide different cope exercises that anyone can do from a child to an adult. Also, I have that space where individuals, because normally at the end of every video, I always ask individuals that they have any suggestions or topics that they want me to talk about. They can always reach out to me about that. And most individuals do reach out to me. And whenever I do those topics, I always give them a shout out. Without saying the name, but I'll just say shout out to this individual that gave me this topic. And once I say what the topic is, they already know that it's their topic, because they normally will respond right at the end and say, well, thank you for doing my topic. But I do that every Friday on social media and on YouTube. I have one coming out on Friday. I'm looking forward to that dropping. But with those video platforms, I did that as a way just to continue to just do the work that I do. I love helping others. And during that time, when I started doing JG Mental Health Fridays, I was furloughed. I was just furloughed from Family Links at the time because schools had got shut down and everything like that. So I had wanted to find an outlet for me to still help others, but also find an outlet for me to get through that furlough at the time. And then when I was able to go back to work and then also get another job and become licensed, I say, you know what, I'm gonna still push these out because it's reaching out to others.
Okay, all right, Denise.
So basically, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, because I think these topics are so important and we just don't talk about it enough. And I just think that it's important that we are, constantly educated on what's going on out there and understand that there are programs all over for people. So if anybody in the area, we are at Horizon House, 1902A Maryland Avenue, Wilmington, 19805. Our phone number is 302-778-9590. So if you know of anybody who's dealing with homelessness, addiction, mental health issues, we are there to provide a support for them. We're also there to help them get linked with services. Please send them our way. Also, if you are someone that's dealing with trauma, myself and my niece Victoria Rodriguez is running the I'm a Survivor, Not a Victim trauma group, which is every Wednesday at the Newark location of the Journey Church, which is 721 East Chestnut Hill Road. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call. And my phone number is 302-613-8535.
What's the hours of operation at the Peer Recovery Center?
Our hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. We used to open up on weekends, but because of COVID, they kind of shortened us down. But I am glad to say that we were able to remain open throughout the whole time that COVID's been around. So we've never shut our doors.
Great. All right, Mrs. Smith, close this out.
Thank you again so much. It's so wonderful to have met all of you, and I can tell you for sure that I will be getting in contact with each of you for your area. I know Delaware, we have family in Sharon Hill, Pennsylvania, and in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And in Delaware as well, I think we have a few nieces. We aren't doing anything specifically for the holiday. Zane's birthday will be November the 27th. He'll be 4 years old. And that's how fast time flies. That's why we definitely try to keep relationships together, because we know it won't be long before the kids, you know, how they grow. But I put my information in the chat, and I hope that you can copy and paste it out, because you will be hearing from me again. But all of our information is on the website, FASAinc.org. And we're constantly putting up new resources. Plus, we have a resource directory. We have a resource directory for people who have promised that they will have some sort of complimentary consultation for our clients. But we also have a resource page that we will just put any good resource. You can expect yours to be on there, any good resource. And people, that's why we ask for the zip, because we take any zip in the contiguous United States.
Okay, on that note, I just thank all of you for being a guest on tonight's program. You're all excellent, and I'm quite sure I'll probably be inviting you all for another program. So thank you. Be blessed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice meeting everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Stay safe.